Nadia. Let's call her Nadia. Let's call her 19 years old. Let's call her too old for a pony, but too young to be another horse in some man's stable. So she studies. Let's call her smart. Let's call her whip smart. A graduate student, a doctorate on the table. In the business, we call that vetted. We call that bona fide. We call that the damn paterfamilias, but the numbers call that unimpressive or not worth taking the plunge. Let's call her beautiful. Actually, let's call her stunning. Let's call her a $50 bill in designer heels, too crisp that'd be stuffed in someone's wallet. Let's call her smile radiant. 2 a.m. TV blue screen bright on your favorite channel. Let's call her available. Let's call her single. Let's call her a slightly used Lexus with a passenger seat that still feels brand new. Let's call her available. Let's call her black. Let's call her black. Let's call her 32 years old, never married, one child, and no one interested in marrying her. Let's call her black. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's call Nadia a spade. Let's call a spade the fact that the largest demographic of unmarried adults in America are black women. Let's call that pretty fucked up. Or we can call it typical. Maybe it's a bit of both. Let's call that survival. Let's call that having to work harder to prove themselves than anybody else in the country. Let's call it agree to disagree. Let's call Jesse Jackson. He's got a black wife that he cheated on. Surely he knows the secret. Let's call it fucked up. Did I mention Nadia is black? Did I mention the blood? Did I mention the breakbeat scars on the knuckles? The hip-hop bass drop against their cheekbones? Did I mention the swollen left eye of Cicely Tyson? Did I mention Rihanna's anxiety in sports cars? The swimsuit on Dorothy Dandridge to the hearing loss in Halle Berry's right ear? Did I mention that scars look really fitting on the right shade of women? Did I mention that the right shade of women often come with defensive wounds? Did I mention Phyllis Wheatley died alone? Did I mention Pam Grier never got to see the White House like Marilyn Monroe did? Did I mention Maddie, soup kitchen server and recipient, midnight slave quarter visitation from master? Did I mention we all may be descendants of Thomas Jefferson anyway? Did I mention Nadia is black? Let's call it difficult. Not worth the trouble. Perfect on paper, but a headache in the family room. Let's call dating her quicksand. That leads to an oasis a lot of people don't believe actually exists. Let's call her calculus. In a world that tests out of math as early as possible, let's call her black. Let's call single black female a spade. Let's call spade unappreciated. Let's call spade a conundrum. Let's call spade worthy of the journey, more baseball than country club golf. Let's call it not for the faint of heart. Let's call it dietary restrictions. Some people will always see chocolate as a dessert rather than a main course. Let's call it a spade to disagree. Let's call Nadia back to the altar. Let's call her worth it.